Mike, I somehow got the three guys, yourself included, that accompanied Nick Saban in 2009 to the Winfrey Hotel in Hoover, Alabama. My wife would say I can remember stuff like that,
Yeah.
but I can't remember what to get at Publix. But anyway, it's a real pleasure to have you here with us today.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And yeah, it was myself, and you got it. You got it on your first guess. It was Javier Arenas and Rolando McClain, and it was a lot shorter drive back when it was in Hoover to go up the interstate there in the back of a 12-passenger van headed up to media days. But you called it a duty. I think that's the right word. It was definitely a work day, but it was a pleasure all in the same breath to kind of be able to represent your school.
What was it like hitting that front door at the Winfrey and the fans that are there?
Well, what's crazy is back then we had not won any national titles. We're coming off a 12-2 season, but a loss to Utah in the Sugar Bowl. Got a lot of questions that day about a loss to Utah in the Sugar Bowl, and it was a pleasure. It was a blessing, and it's like I said, being the face, having Coach Saban trust you to be one of the faces of that program was something that still baffles me. It honestly does. I had a lot of good times and great pleasures at the University of Alabama. I got to meet the president, got to give him a jersey, got to put my handprints in the sidewalk. But that was the first step in all those, is being able to kind of be the face at media days, them trusting you, not so much that them bringing you on, but them trusting you, not to get out of headline. It was crazy times, and that was the kind of unofficial start to that 2009 season. And it ended with no losses and 14 victories and a national title. So it was a heck of a run.
Mike, you talk about being a face of the program.
Right.
I would guess, I haven't really researched it, but if you are chosen as a player to do what Anthony Jennings and Ross Pierce-Baker and Damian Harris are going to do today, might be a pretty good predictor of permanent captain status.
Yeah.
You think?
I think it definitely is. And I'll try to relay the information of how Nick Saban does captaincies. He doesn't pick captains before the year for a reason. He likes to have guys that are leaders, but he doesn't want anybody to step away from the table either. He doesn't want somebody to say, hey, you know what? That's not my problem. That's not my business. I'm not a captain. And so you're going to get 3 leaders today, but there are a ton of captain eligible kind of people within that program, and things can always change. But I would guess it's a pretty good indicator when you're bringing these 3 guys in that they're probably the leaders of that football team right now.
So as much as we hear about Nick Saban being the unquestioned voice, leader of the program, that secondary level, he's trying to cultivate as much ownership, I guess is what you're saying, as possible.
And ownership's a great word. That's what, honestly, it's one of the things I don't think gets talked about enough is how Nick Saban cultivates leaders. It's crazy.
I think it's all Nick Saban.
And it's year in and year out, and he puts the responsibilities on the players' shoulders. And listen, you're not going to see assistant coaches talking to the media this year. The players are going to get to talk to the media this year. And he, little by little, Coach Saban puts out responsibilities for the players. Hey, take care of your meeting room. Take care of your position group. And he just has a way of cultivating that to where at some point you look around in the middle of the year and you say, you know what, I'm actually the alpha male in this room. I'm the one kind of running things. People are asking me for advice. And he just has a way of doing that and has a way of putting responsibilities on each of his players that really does develop leadership.
You say alpha male. We've heard him refer to it as an alpha dog.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, when they hear that, they are attracted to the defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
In that Rolando McClain, when they think of the 2009 team that you were a part of, wins the national championship, I think most Alabama fans, they think Rolando McClain was the alpha dog. When in reality, though, he's looking for those guys across the board, right?
Well, he's looking at...
And what does it constitute? What is an alpha dog?
An alpha dog is accountability, right, for your teammates. So in 2008, I was a junior. Our alpha dog in the room was Antoine Caldwell. I mean, he was a guy who had been a 3-4 year starter. He had been around the program. He knew SEC football. I was going into my second year starting. I was trying to do all these good things. I played next to Andre Smith, who was talented but was not the alpha dog of the room. That was Antoine Caldwell. So all of a sudden, Antoine Caldwell's gone. The Sugar Bowl's over. You're going to the offseason. Hey, we want to be good next year. Well, who's going to get that done? Who's going to lead offseason, kind of conditioning drills? Who's going to be making sure that after those drills are over, the offensive linemen are punching back or taking pass sets or taking kick sets? That's what he puts on you. It's the onus to make sure the guys in your immediate vicinity are there. And he's going to have a leadership group. He might have 2 guys from one position group, but that's where it starts. And then all of a sudden it grows to, hey, it's not just the offensive line. All of a sudden it's the offense. All of a sudden It's the whole team. All of a sudden, you're also involved in special teams. Be the alpha dog on special teams. So it's a slow burn, and he knows the process. I hate to bring up the process where with Coach Saban because it gets kicked around a lot, but he knows the process to cultivate that.
You talked about the questions you guys got at this event in 2009, the loss to Utah.
Yep.
2 straight losses to end that season. 12-0 regular season. You're ranked number 1 in the country, I want to say by November of that season. But the loss to Florida in the SEC championship game, followed by the loss to Utah, and what was more of a ceremonial game. It had to be for you guys.
Well, first of all, Andre Smith got suspended before the game.
Yep.
I was asked to play left tackle. I got hurt on like the 9th snap of the game, so we're down to like our 3rd string left tackle. And it just nothing went right. We all year that year we had been a team that ran left with Glenn Coffey between myself and Andre Smith.
Yep.
And we didn't have that anymore. Andre Smith wasn't there. I wasn't there. Antoine had to move around. Drew Davis was playing left tackle. So that was a tough pill to swallow. So, yeah, all the questions I got at media days were, boy, how do you replace 3 starters in the offensive line and your quarterback and your starting running back? And how do we expect Alabama to somehow just, come back to the SEC championship? How do you get that done? And nobody expected us to. Hey, they've lost too much talent. They lost an Outland Trophy winner. They lost an All-American center. Mm-hmm. They lost Glenn Coffey, who had 1,300 rushing yards. They lost a 3-year starting quarterback. And I kept giving the same answer as, listen, we're just going to work on it. I don't know who it's going to be. Ended up being James Carpenter, William Vallejos, Greg McElroy, Mark Ingram. And so that's really the astounding thing for me to look back at those media days and say, hey, listen, that season really ended up being pretty good when there were a lot of question marks.
We're talking with Mike Johnson, former Alabama All-American offensive lineman, on a Wednesday edition of Southern Fried Sports, presented by Cartier and Lloyd Attorneys at Law and Mercedes-Benz of Tuscaloosa. You talk about a slow burn, though. Those questions, and as much as we hear players and coaches talk about them not providing motivation to a team, in reality, did that help you guys?
I think it definitely did. And, we had we'd run into some of the media people. I think College Game Day actually came to our first game against Virginia Tech. And I remember seeing Kirk Herbstreit before the game. He's like, hey, how are you guys going to replace these incredible linemen? And I said, listen, I honestly think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be all right.
Yeah. You got Joe Pendry coaching us, too.
And fast forward 4 months, Mark Ingram's the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
So, and we answered a lot of questions, I think, off the bat. We didn't have a great game against Virginia Tech. We had a lot of rushing yards. Greg played decently well. Our defense answered the bell. And so it was just little by little.
We didn't know. Game.
Yeah, we didn't know what we were going to hang our hat on. It's interesting going into the year that you practice all these plays and you have this full playbook, and then you attack each defense you play individually, and then you get done with the year and you look back and say, boy, we were a really good screen team. Or, boy, we were a really good stretch zone team.
Mac loved him some screen game.
Oh, man. It's
kind of left with him, didn't it?
It did. I've had this conversation 3 times today with different guys on the radio that we called it the jump and dump. It's hey, you're backpedaling, you're jumping, you're throwing over the defense lineman. And, some of the rules for
Florida in that blitz.
Some of the rules for the offensive lineman have changed as far as engaging downfield. But I still wish that, the TJ Yeldon at LSU, there's a lot of Alabama lore on some screenplays. I think Mark Ingram,
Florida.
Yeah, I think he won the Heisman Trophy on that screenplay.
Very well.
Yeah, it just it's one of those things that I hope comes back pretty soon. I love that play.
Yeah, get out and run a little bit, move a little bit.
Hey, man, stretch my legs. Yeah. That's like the only time I ran 20 yards downfield was on plays like that. I'm telling you, I was joking with Cole Kublik earlier. I made a living off log rolling into people's legs downfield on those screens.
Absolutely. Nick Saban bringing 3 veteran leaders, no surprise there, with him today.
Yeah.
A lot of talk, though, as you know, is going to be about the quarterback position.
Yep.
Jalen and Tua. Go ahead and tell us. I don't know if you do a Nick Saban.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't have to do an impression, but just tell us what we're going to get from Nick Saban today, because
It's scary enough. I don't want to step out too far because you never know when he's going to be looking over my shoulder. I know he's in the building.
You're not Rob Ezel.
Yeah. I know he's in the building right now, so I don't want him to catch me talking about. Listen, it's been 10 years since I've been in the program. I'm still scared to go out and talk about things, thinking that Coach Saban might be looming. But listen, the bottom line is this. I think that what irritates Coach Saban is that the national media has made this out to be a bad thing. And listen, there's, obviously Jalen's dad coming out and talking, and you've heard some talk from the Tonga-Vailoa
What
family.
did he think of that?
I didn't love it. I actually hated the timing of it. I thought it was
before A-Day.
I thought it was terrible timing.
I don't know Jalen, didn't it? Did that put more on Jalen in your opinion?
Yeah, I don't know when he did the interview, so it's hard to come down on him. But it comes out with Bleacher Report, and listen, I don't think there was any benefit to it. That's the thing. As I look at it and say, what's the benefit to doing this kind of interview? But on the same token, maybe he felt like he needed to say something in terms of the way his son was being approached in the offseason talk. And I understand that. His son is his, first and foremost thing. I don't know what the benefit was. And especially, what was it, 2 days before the 8A game? It was bad timing. I don't blame him. I'm not saying, and I honestly
understand how he feels.
And honestly, he didn't say anything disrespectful. He said, listen, Jalen loves Coach Saban. He loves the program, but it was the timing that stunk.
Yeah. So within the locker room, though, a situation like this, I think fan perspective is that players sit around and go, man, I'm pulling for Jalen or I'm pulling for Tua. I mean, in reality, when you're lining up at left guard or right guard or tackle, or you're Damian Harris next to the quarterback, how much time is really being spent? How much thought is being given to it by the rest of these guys?
Not much. And listen, I was never a part of any kind of quarterback controversy per se. I mean, Greg beat out Star Jackson pretty handily in 2009, so there was never like a really huge question. But I'll just bring it to you in terms of how I felt about our running backs coming into 2009. Roy Upchurch was one of my favorite teammates. Mm-hmm. Mark Ingram was an incredibly good back. We had other people. I mean, listen, we had other people inside the program that were very able. I mean, Trent Richardson was a true freshman, so we weren't sure.
Yeah.
And it's not so much rooting, but you pay attention to it, and you know what guy does what. And you say, you know what? This guy's in the huddle now. We're going to go to work for this guy. You know what? If Tua's in the huddle, by God, we're going to pass pro. And if Jalen's in the huddle.
You better, right? Or you'll be out.
Right. If Jalen's in the huddle, then I'll be 10 yards downfield throwing a block. And that's just how it is. I don't think you so much root for one guy. I know that would make an incredible story if somebody say, well, I'm rooting for Jalen. But they're two good guys, and I think they're two great teammates from what I've heard. And so you just adjust on the fly, and you hope for the best for both of them.